Hello everyone, welcome back to Ansarkari. So today we'll be taking up the newspaper for 23rd November. So over here we have the first article about Iran launching a series of new and advanced centrifuges. So this would be in response to the resolution which was adopted by the UN nuclear, and this was bought by Britain, France, Germany, and the US at the board of International Atomic Energy Agency. And this mostly came in response to the tensions which have been ongoing regarding the Iran atomic program of the possibility of developing a new nuclear weapon. So the atomic energy spokesman, he also talked about saying that this is mostly in relation with the uranium enrichment. So this could be a possible threat since nuclear power should not be used in any case. Then we have the next article talking about don't blame the Desi visitor. So this article is talking in regards with Goa, and so this article is talking about not blaming the Desi visitor. Now this article is in regards with Goa and Goa tourism. So this talks about how Goa has a lot of foreign tourism there, but the actual economy of Goa that is being fueled by the Indian tourism only, the locals or the Desis as we like to call them. So when we talk about the tourism industry, so that was heavily impacted when the pandemic came in. So, but another perspective that it opened up was that when it comes to Goa, it has the potential as an ideal location for a primary or a secondary home. Since with COVID coming in, we had working from home system, and many young professionals they relocated themselves from the congested cities to cities which are more scenic, which have a more scenic view and have more species accommodation, and they are available at an affordable price. So with work from home, all that a professional generally requires is a good connection and network, which has overall improved. So then the focus went towards a better lifestyle or moving towards a lifestyle which was more accommodating or a healthier lifestyle, which is somewhere now being problem when it comes to congested or urban cities. So people prefer moving away from them when work from home came in. So Goa had the potential of becoming a second or a primary home for many people, and that has something which also boosts the economy, especially when the pandemic came in. So even if the locals in Goa they prefer foreign tourism, thinking that it actually brings their economy a boost, it's the Desis which is contributing to that. So this is what the article is mainly talking about. Now we have this aiding vision. So over here, this is for specially abled people and instructors assisting visually challenged students. So over here, they're using AI-powered smart classes, which are designed for face recognition, object recognition, and navigation assistance during a training program at school for the blind in Hyderabad on Friday. So it's for blind people, it's very good. Since they can also, with AI powered classes, they can also study. Then we have the next article over here, which is study by Indian Institute of Science sheds light on migratory pattern of the cancer cells. Now, this is talking about a new study which is coming from the Indian Institute of Science, and it basically shows how the inherent variations in a cancer cell and how it interacts with its surrounding. So it actually molds the migration of the cell. And over here, various cancer cells were tested and they studied ovarian cancer cells and the mesenchymal cells, and they observed a unique pattern on how the direction of the movement of cells aligns with the shape of the cell. So this study or this finding is very important when it comes to countering a disease like cancer, which has already been taking a lot of lives with no possible solution. Then we have the next article over here, high income but zero savings. So decoding the lifestyle creep. Now, this article is mainly talking about how lifestyle and our lifestyle changes according to the income. So as we witness a rise in the income, the lifestyle tends to change more and we start spending more. With more we have, so this is what leads to zero savings. And this is where we start expecting more money to save instead of setting up a proper budget where we prioritize the essential expenses over everything else. The Gen Z and the millennials, they are also very in influence when it comes to social media, and they find themselves in the world of wellness, food, fitness, and other such experience, which has never happened before. So when we talk about lifestyle inflation, that is something which is caused by certain strategies which companies are adopting. So over here it comes in the pay later option, credit card and EMI. So they made purchasing high cost items very easy. And that is also something which has led to increase in spending. And people, they're more willing to spend a nice amount of money and luxuries and their well-being, and mostly the fear of missing out on luxuries while others are around. So you must be enjoying them has also contributed to the lifestyle inflation. And this is what the article is mainly talking about. So it's saying key lifestyle inflation during the unexpected financial challenges, for example, job loss of income reduction, that leads to financial vulnerability for people since earlier they did not save or did not bother saving, and suddenly that becomes very burdensome. So this is stressing upon the importance of setting up a budget and delaying purchases for instant gratification. Then we have the next article, Understanding the Changing Face of Extremist Violence. Now, this article talks about a study that was published a couple of years ago in the US, and it talked about changing face of the heat and domestic extremist violence. And this indicates a important change that was constantly taking place in the realm of domestic terrorism and violent terrorism. And this study had a relevance when it comes to the US, but in some way it did connect lessons for other countries as well. Now, if we talk about the study in context with India, we would know that after India gained independence or post independence, we experienced a lot of communal violence and communist movement, which caused major problems for the country. And for the majority of time, it attracted the best and the brightest youth of the country in descending into the mindless violence. So that really catered a lot of violence in the country and a lot of disturbances, internal disturbances. And when we compare it with the world, since then, changes have been seen, and the practitioners of revolutionary ideas, they have changed, and the left-wing ideas, they have given the way to right-wing philosophy, and they have many new adherents regarding this. So today, cross-pollination of right-wing extremist ideologies, they have helped the situations of violent extremism of the right-wing variety. And the focus should be law and order agencies across the globe, and they should be taking closer look at the rising dimensions and implications of right-wing terror and the role of these terror modules. So growing concerns across the world about the right wing and the Islamist militancy, they somewhere call for an adoption of certain harsh measures, and they need to be handled with care, since security is not a zero-sum game and it cannot be ignored in any case. And external vigilance is the price of liberty. And this is what the message is being sent out by this article. Then we have the next article. Democratizing AI needs a radically different approach. So, with the growing hold over the artificial intelligence ecosystem, India, like many other countries, is also investing in many sovereign cloud infrastructure, and it is also creating open data platforms and supporting the local startups. So, since the growing power in the influence of big tech company is a very big concern for policymakers worldwide, and the recent policy proposals, they suggest investing in a public compute infrastructure or developing a federated model, which would be competitive with the big tech offering as well. So over here, it's mainly talking about competing with the big tech companies and big tech data monopoly somewhere, which is very hard to compete with. And these companies, they access a continuous data stream across various domains, social interactions, and geography. And this is the reason why many smaller AI companies, they prefer to sell to big tech companies, which also somewhere entrenches the dominance of such companies. Now, this would require a very radical approach to the AI development, since currently we're only increasing the dependence on the big tech, and democratizing the AI becomes very important. Then we have the next article. Over 20 years, methane warms Earth 80 times more than CO2, but it offers us opportunities. Now, this article is mainly talking about how the current climate change is mostly impacts of methane on the environment. So, methane is a greenhouse gas which warms the earth, and when compared with carbon dioxide, it is a way more powerful warming agent. So, if we're able to reduce the methane emission, we can see an immediate impact on the global average surface temperature as well. So, what are the most important sources of methane emissions? So, this would be the oil company, as it does not have the pipeline capacity to get to the market. So, it burns it at the production site, which turns the methane into carbon dioxide and other byproducts, leading to problems in the climate. So, a lot of natural gas, it is not combusted, and there is still methane leakage. So, methane is formed from the decomposition of organic matter in the absence of oxygen. And apart from that, the article is stressing on the need to keep the food and other organic matter out of landfills and capture the methane from waste sites. And it is also talking about an international agreement which talks about methane emission. So this is the Global Methane Pledge, which was put forth by the European Union and the US at COP26 in 2021, stressing upon the need to reduce the methane emissions. Terry Pillai, he was a towering figure of Malayalam literature, so he passes away. And he's important for spearheading the Malayalam Mission, which was an initiative to teach the language to children of Kerala migrants. and he was a professor and co-rector as well. So Malayalam literature is a body of writing in the Malayalam language, and the earliest extent of the literary work is Ramacharitham, which was late 12th or early 13th century, and it has flourished a literature of mainly erotic poetry composed in the Manipravalam style, which is a mixture of Malayalam and Sanskrit. Reading the Thaw. Now, this article is talking about India and China relationship and how sporadic engagements on a few occasions and bilateral relations has remained tense through the last 4 years. Now, what if we talk about the significance of China for India? So the first is industrial raw material dependency. And China has emerged as India's largest trading partner in the financial year 2023-24 in the Global Trade Research Initiative, despite the border tensions. And India relies on China for imports of critical industrial raw materials and intermediate goods. Then we have technology and digital infrastructure. So Chinese technology continues to influence India's digital landscape. Then we have investment and expertise. So Chinese technical expertise remains valuable for Indian industrial development. And Chinese companies, they have significant experience in infrastructure development and high-speed rail system, which India is seeking to develop. Then we have the trade route dependency. So Indian trade routes and regional connectivity it initiatives, they often interacted with Chinese influence. So now what measures can India adapt to balance its relations when it comes with China? So economic diversification and self-reliance, India should continue expanding the PLI scheme, which could reduce the critical sector dependencies on China. Then we can have strategic military modernization. So this would be accelerating the military infrastructure development along the LAC. And apart from that, strengthening the partnership with neighboring countries through the increased development assistance and infrastructure projects. Then maintaining dialogue through multiple channels and by standing firm on the core interest. So engaging in multilateral forums like SCO, BRICS, while strengthening the Quad partnership as well. Apart from that, also strengthening the naval capabilities and presence in the Indian Ocean region. That's where we can improve the relation when it comes with China. Then we have the next article. Argentina considers Paris Treaty pullout. What does that mean? So Argentina president is considering withdrawing from the Paris Agreement. And Paris Agreement aims to curb the global greenhouse gas emission, and it was adopted by nearly every country in 2015 to address the climate change and the effects. So the treaty basically requires all the countries to give a report every 5 years on what they are doing to tackle the climate change. And if any member wants to withdraw from the treaty, the country has to submit the notification of withdrawal to the Office of Legal Affairs of the UN, and it becomes effective after 1 year of receiving. So Argentina has been thinking of withdrawal since Argentina feels it's a lot of elements in which the country does not agree with it. And how would exit of Argentina impact other countries? So that could cause other countries to reconsider their own participations when it comes to various parts of the agreement. So this could undermine the Paris Agreement and world climate goals. And we have the next article, why decline in US overdose deaths is not all good news. So this focuses upon a recent report from the US, which shows decline in drug overdose death. Over here, it's talking about a particular fentanyl drug, which is a synthetic opioid, and it contributes a majority of the overdose deaths that happens in the US. And the government cracked down on the cartels and the international supply chain in making chemicals and other supplies harder to get. So now the problem is that this data shows uneven progress among the racial and ethnic groups, which means that many communities they have been historically marginalized and they are yet to see a change. So the other problem is also the reduction in fentanyl. It has spurred the rise of other drugs which have either a mixture of fentanyl or completely something different. So we have methamphetamine and cocaine, which are not as acutely deadly as fentanyl, although they're still very dangerous. And the next article, China India State of Play. So we discussed this in detail already.
There are basically two or three major areas which are highlighted here. First of all is trust deficit between the India and China's relationship, which also has suffered due to the border standoff which was in Ladakh. So अभी disengagement process जो है वो currently in progress है. Resolution हो रहा है regarding the petrol related issues LAC के ऊपर जो कि basically core है अभी जो talks हो रही हैं. तो diplomatic engagement जो है अभी हमने देखा कि जो चाइनीज काउंटर पार्ट है वैंग वी उनके साथ हमारे एक्सटर्नल अफेयर मिनिस्टर एस जयशंकर उन्होंने हाई लेवल मीटिंग्स कंडक्ट की हैं जो कि दिखाता है कि प्रैग्मेटिक अप्रोच की तरफ हम चल रहे हैं नॉर्मलाइजेशन की तरफ हम स्टेप्स ले रहे हैं तो कहीं ना कहीं दोनों ही साइड से हमने देखा कि रिलेशन को रीस्टार्ट करने की विलिंगनेस है इकोनॉमिक और कल्चरल टाइज हैं दोनों ही साइड से तो बिजनेस कल्चरल एक्सचेंज जैसे हमने देखा था वीजा एंड फ्लाइट सर्विस वगैरह हम वापस रीओपन करने की बात कर रहे हैं तो पीपल टू पीपल इंगेजमेंट इसके साथ बढ़ेगा रिज्यूम करेंगे डायरेक्ट फ्लाइट को इसके साथ मीडिया कवरेज जो है वो यहाँ पे हमने देखा कहीं ना कहीं रिस्ट्रिक्टेड था जो अनरिजॉल्व इश्यूज है हमारे जैसे वीजा का तो चाइना जो है वो फोकस करता है ऑन द लॉन्ग टर्म स्टेबिलिटी एंड प्रैक्टिकल मेजर एंड इंडिया जो है वो अभी एम्फोसाइज कर रहा है ऑन डी एस्केलेशन एट द बॉर्डर क्योंकि वो प्राइमरी कंसर्न है अभी रिगार्डिंग दी बॉर्डर कॉपरेशन सो जियो पॉलिटिकल कंसर्न है इस पे इकोनॉमिक रिलेशन के ऊपर इम्पैक्ट आएगा स्ट्रैटेजिक सॉवर्निटी के ऊपर इम्पैक्ट आएगा एंड हम बोल सकते हैं कि ऐसे जो कॉपरेशन ग्लोबल प्लेटफॉर्म है जैसे कि ब्रिक्स उसी के थ्रू यहाँ पे दोनों काउंटर पार्ट्स के बीच में बात हुई तो वो दिखाता है कि मल्टीलैटरल डिप्लोमेसी का रोल कितना ज्यादा है एंड इंटरनल सिक्योरिटी के लिए ये मैटर जो है वो प्रायोरिटी पे है हमारे लिए इसीलिए डी एस्केलेशन पे इंडिया फोकस कर रहा है नेक्स्ट
Then we have the next article, urgent deadline. Poverty and climate change must be tackled urgently by the G20. So it's talking about how poverty and promoting climate justice were declared goals of the recent G20 summit. And Brazil will be the host in 2025 and would indicate the issues of climate financing and climate justice, which has been raised by the developing world. So it is important to ensure that the next G20 is able to concretize the concerns for developing world. Cold truth, open waste burning up as RWA fails to provide heaters to the staff. So with winters here, the temperatures have been dropping and open burning of waste, garbage, wood and plastic has become one of the major source of pollution as well. Since the poor and the homeless, they burn waste to beat the cold weather. And the study also shows how the share of biomass burning was 24% from November 2022 to Jan 29, 2023. And the government is running a special campaign against the open burning since November 6th. So the Commission for Air Quality Management and the Delhi Pollution Control Committee, they had already issued an advisory which was asking the residencies and societies to mandatory provide electricity heaters to all staff employed by them. And 7 districts in Delhi have not provided a single heater so far. So garbage burning has been seen due to not taking actions on time. Next article, socialism in India means a welfare state, not a dictatorial dogma. Now, the Chief Justice Sanjeev Khanna, he said how socialism means a welfare state where we should be talking about equality of opportunity for all, and it has never stopped the private sector from thriving or from achieving its whatever it desires. And it also pointed out how socialism and secularism were parts of the basic structures of the constitution.
And both of these concepts are reflected in our constitution regarding socialism. उसका बेसिक एम होता है टू बैलेंस द इकोनॉमिक इक्विटी विद द प्राइवेट सेक्टर ग्रोथ, जो कि यहाँ पे बात की जा रही है। तो इंटरप्रिटेशन जो है सोशलिज्म का वो एम्फोसाइज करता है कि जैसा कि यहाँ पे बताया कि एक्सट्रीम इंटरप्रिटेशन जो है वो सीजीआई ने रिजेक्ट किया है कि दैट इट डज नॉट इक्वेट टू अथॉरिटेरियन गवर्नेंस। 42nd अमेंडमेंट यहाँ पे इम्पोर्टेंट हो जाता है, जिसके थ्रू हमने जो स्कोप है ऑफ सोशलिज्म वो प्रियम्बल के अंदर एक्सपैंड किया है। एंड फर्दर क्लैरिफिकेशन जो है वो आती रहती है, इंटरप्रिटेशन जो है वो आता रहता है फ्रॉम द साइड ऑफ सुप्रीम कोर्ट। एंड बेसिकली जो ओवरऑल बैलेंस है बिटवीन द वेलफेयर एंड बिटवीन द प्राइवेट एंटरप्राइजेस वो यहाँ पे बात की जा रही है। एंड पब्लिक मिसकंसेप्शन जो भी होता है उसके ऊपर क्लैरिफिकेशन होना बहुत जरूरी है, तो उसमें सुप्रीम कोर्ट रोल प्ले करता है। नेक्स्ट।
Article Chhattisgarh's new tiger reserve at Heart of Animals Confucius home. So Chhattisgarh government notified the Guru Khasidas Tampar Pingla as India's 56th tiger reserve, and this is expected to help the state to improve its tiger population, and it is the fourth tiger reserve in the state of Chhattisgarh. So this would be the third largest tiger reserve in India, and currently the state has 30 tigers. So the state has been developing a robust road wireless connectivity, which would help patrol the hill terrain and increase the prey base for the tigers as well. And apart from that, preparing it would also be strengthening the wildlife corridors with Madhya Pradesh, which has recently seen an increase in the population, and it would be creating awareness among the villagers to avoid any possible human animal conflict. Then we have the next article, ISRO to develop new algorithm after the Supreme Court direction on farm fire data. So ISRO has recently told the Commission for Air Quality that the data which is extracted from different satellites regarding the farm fire, it may not be the ground reality. And it also talked about how farmers are evading satellite detection due to its limited capacity to capture farm fires between 10:30 a.m. and 1:30 p.m. So government agencies, including the Indian Agricultural Research Institute and various state remote sensing centers, and they're currently using the data from the NASA satellite, and the number of fires detected using the satellite is far less, especially when it comes to states of Punjab and Haryana. So we need to have something which would actually give the ground reality. climate change conference and over time as countries reject $250 billion offer. So this was a proposal regarding climate change, which was meant for both the developed and the developing countries to work together to enable scaling up the climate finance. And the Paris Agreement, it also talks about generating climate finance solely on developed countries. So the developing countries, they've been demanding that the bulk of climate finance to be raised from public sources and should be dispersed largely in the form of grants or concessionary loans. And the small island countries, they rejected the proposal, saying it was an example of asking parties how low they could go in climate ambition. Then we have the next article, damaged India increased credibility. Now this article
So
is
जो
talking.
recent issue create हुआ है regarding the Adani Group. तो यहाँ पे क्रेडिबिलिटी ऑफ द इंडियन कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर उसके ऊपर डैमेज की बात हो रही है दैट ड्यू टू द एलिगेशंस ऑफ गवर्नमेंट्स फेवरेटिज्म टुवर्ड्स अडानी ग्रुप देखा जा रहा है कि इंटरसेक्शन है कहीं ना कहीं बिजनेस पॉलिटिक्स और इंडियन ग्लोबल स्टैंडिंग का तो एलिगेशन जो है वो सरफेस हुए दैट इंडियन गवर्नमेंट has pressured the foreign nations like Sri Lanka, Greece to favor Adani related projects. इकोनॉमिक डिप्लोमेसी का मिसयूज कहीं ना कहीं हुआ है ऐसा यहाँ पे बोला जा रहा है हिस्टोरिकल कंटेक्स्ट में भी बोला जा रहा है कि जो इंडियन बिजनेसेस हैं दे हैव ग्रोन एज अ ग्लोबल ब्रांड बाय मेंटेनिंग हाई स्टैंडर्ड्स बट ऐसे इंसिडेंट्स को होने की वजह से कहीं ना कहीं वो ब्रांडिंग है और जो ट्रस्ट है उसमें डेफिसिट क्रिएट होता है तो लक्ष्मण रेखा होनी चाहिए बिटवीन दी बिजनेस एंड दी पॉलिटिक्स जो कि बोला जा रहा है इस केस में कहीं ना कहीं ब्लर हुई है तो पॉलिटिकल इन्फ्लुएंस कितना रहता है कॉर्पोरेट गेन्स के ऊपर उसकी बात की जा रही है बट इस पूरे इशू में ये हाईलाइट करना भी जरूरी है कि जो एलिगेशन लगाया गया है ऑन दी अडानी ग्रुप वो बेसिकली यूएस के द्वारा लगाया जा रहा है जबकि मेजर जो रोल है वो वहां पे इंडियन गवर्नमेंट एंड इंडियन लॉज का होना चाहिए इंडिया में जो चीज हो रही है उसके ऊपर एक तरीके से आप यूएस के लॉज इंप्लीमेंट नहीं कर सकते हैं तो क्वेश्चन भी उठता है साथ ही साथ ट्रांसपेरेंसी फेवरेटिज्म के बारे में जो कि ओवर शैडो करता है इंडिया के कॉर्पोरेट अचीवमेंट्स को ऑन ग्लोबल स्टेज तो स्ट्रिक्टर रेगुलेशन एंड एथिकल प्रैक्टिसेस को फॉलो करना बहुत जरूरी है ताकि हम इंडिया की जो इमेज है उसको भी मेंटेन कर पाए एंड क्वालिटी ऑफ स्टैंडर्ड्स भी हम मेंटेन कर पाए नेक्स्ट कैरिबियन कनेक्ट जो प्राइम मिनिस्टर नरेंद्र मोदी है उन्होंने विजिट किया है गुआना को एंड बेसिकली स्ट्रेंथन करने की बात की है हिस्टोरिकल टाइज को विद द कैरिबियन रीजन की हिस्टोरिकली बात करते हैं तो इंडियन डायस्पोरा वहां पे प्रेजेंट है बट कहीं ना कहीं पूरा जो रीजन है वो निग्लेक्टेड है इंडिया की फॉरेन पॉलिसी में तो अब उसके ऊपर और भी ज्यादा फोकस किया जा रहा है स्ट्रैटेजिक लोकेशन है लोकेशन स्ट्रैटेजिक है साथ में रिसोर्स में रिच है इंक्रीजिंग एंगेजमेंट ऑफ ग्लोबल पावर्स जैसे कि चाइना कैरीकॉम दैट इज कैरिबियन कम्युनिटी नीचे स्क्रॉल करो थोड़ा तो सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग क्लाइमेट रेजिलियंस कैरिबियन नेशन में इन सारे चीजों के ऊपर हम ध्यान दे सकते हैं प्राइम मिनिस्टर मोदी ने आउटरीच किया गुआना को एंड कैरिकॉम लीडर्स को एंड बेसिकली कहीं ना कहीं ये भी सिंबलाइज करता है कि इंडिया के जो स्ट्रैटेजी है एंड एफर्ट्स हैं टू काउंटर चाइनाज इन्फ्लुएंस एंड ऑल्सो बाय प्रमोटिंग म्यूचुअल ग्रोथ तो दोनों ही चीजें हम साथ में कर रहे हैं इंडिया का जो गोल है फॉर ग्लोबल साउथ सॉलिडारिटी वो दिखाई देता है अपने गोल्स को जब वो स्ट्रेंथन कर रहा है अपने रिलेशंस को जब वो स्ट्रेंथन कर रहा है विद द कैरिबियन रीजन तो कहीं ना कहीं काउंटर बैलेंस भी कर रहे हैं हम चाइना के ग्रोइंग इन्फ्लुएंस को एंड ग्लोबल साउथ सॉलिडारिटी के गोल को भी प्रमोट कर रहे हैं नेक्स्ट
Adi Pradarshani. So this is talking about trade fair in Pragati Maidan from 14th November 27th November.
तो खादी का क्या रोल है? खादी बेसिकली एज अ सिंबल कंसिडर किया जाता है ऑफ स्वदेशी मूवमेंट एंड ऑल्सो ऑफ, जो हम बोलते हैं, सेल्फ रिलायंस। केवीसी, दैट इज खादी एंड विलेज इंडस्ट्रीज कमीशन, वो मेजर ड्राइवर है फॉर रूरल सेल्फ एम्प्लॉयमेंट एंड ओवरऑल इकोनॉमिक इन एम्पावरमेंट ऑफ द रूरल आर्टिसंस विमेन, जिसमें मार्जिनलाइज कम्युनिटीज भी इंक्लूडेड होती हैं। तो कल्चरल आइडेंटिटी है इंडिया के लिए, हिस्टोरिकल हेरिटेज दिखाता है, लोकल इंडस्ट्री को दिखाता है। खादी इंडस्ट्री सपोर्ट भी करता है कॉटेज इंडस्ट्रीज को या फिर स्मॉल स्केल पे इंडस्ट्रीज जो लोकेटेड है। तो नेशन बिल्डिंग में कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहा है, इकोनॉमिक मॉडर्नाइजेशन में कंट्रीब्यूट कर रहा है, एंड एज अ ग्लोबल ब्रांड, ग्लोबल रीच भी हम बढ़ा रहे हैं विद खादी प्रोडक्ट्स। तो विलेज डेवलपमेंट, वुमेन एम्पावरमेंट एंड कहीं ना कहीं एक सर्कुलर इकोनॉमी क्रिएट कर रहे हैं, क्योंकि रिन्यूएबल रिसोर्सेज को हम यूटिलाइज कर रहे हैं, हम वेस्ट को मिनिमाइज कर रहे हैं। तो बहुत सारी चीजों के लिए खादी जो है वो रिप्रेजेंट करता है एंड कल्चरल प्रिजर्वेशन में बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी सिंबल की तरह काम करता है।
Next article, zone of containment. So, investment in research, development of new drugs. So, this article is talking about how modern medicine is under threat because of the burden of antimicrobial resistance, which happens when microbes stops responding to the drugs used against them. And a recent report also talked about 1.14 millions were directly attributed to the AMR. So the data which was generated by the national network has helped to understand the trends of AMR in the country, where we should be directing the interventions. And India has also a hospital-acquired infection surveillance network. However, the problem with these initiatives is that they lack a national footprint. And so far, India has shown tremendous commitment to containing the AMR in too many players. So missing governance mechanism and absence of funding has been recognized as the impediments to an effective rollout of the National Action Plan in most countries. And to escalate the commitment towards AMR containment, we should commit to improving the governance and accountability at the highest level, which would help in achieving the national targets. And also, investment in the healthcare system will be crucial. So, investments to translate research into development of new drugs, diagnostics, and vaccines, it would enable to respond better to crisis.
Also, it is not only impacting the humans but also impacting the poultry sector. So indirectly, it is creating a strain on the Indian healthcare sector. So that is why unchecked use of antibiotics होना चाहिए, प्रॉपर ट्रेनिंग होनी चाहिए फॉर द डॉक्टर्स। एंड आईसीएमआर का जैसे एएमआर नेटवर्क है, तो ऐसे सर्वेलेंस नेटवर्क्स का होना बहुत जरूरी है, ताकि हम रेजिस्टेंस पैटर्न्स को ट्रैक कर पाए, क्योंकि हमें ना कि सिर्फ रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट में हेल्प करेगा, बल्कि हम इंसेंटिव्स प्रोवाइड कर पाएंगे, ट्रैकिंग प्रोवाइड कर पाएंगे एंड बेटर डायग्नोस्टिक हो पाएगा। तो कंटेन कर पाएंगे हम दी स्प्रेड ऑफ एएमआर को।
Design changes likely to high cost of Vande Bharat sleeper train production. So, this would be happening because of certain cables and certain pipes. It would be redesigned to deliver the elements of coaches, requiring more time and budget, and an additional agreement to be signed, which would be legally binding. And the production schedule that would also have to be adjusted to take account of new inputs. So this would result in a bit more delay when it comes to the Vande Bharat sleeper train production.
And the Vande Bharat trains also symbolize the modernization, Make in India initiative, रीजनल इकोनॉमिक ग्रोथ को लेके आता है, बट साथ में कुछ चैलेंजेस भी हैं, जैसे कि कॉस्ट इंक्रीज हो जाना, प्रोडक्शन में डिले होना, एंड साथ ही साथ हमारा गोल है ऑफ डिप्लॉइंग 400 वंदे भारत ट्रेन्स ओवर द नेक्स्ट फ्यू इयर्स। तो कॉस्ट इफेक्टिवनेस की तरफ हमें चलना चाहिए, एडवांस टेक्नोलॉजी को इंटीग्रेट करना बहुत जरूरी है, एंड साथ ही साथ एनर्जी एफिशिएंट डिजाइन को इंटीग्रेट करना जरूरी है। तो टेक्नोलॉजिकल एडवांसमेंट दिखाता है इन इंडिया वंदे भारत ट्रेन।
Geek firms. Now, this article is regarding Finance Minister, where she's talking about how the Indian startup and economy unit represent the kind of innovations that is actually capable of. And quick commerce is one of the fastest growing consumer sectors in India. So, India following the circular economy, which is a model which seeks to reduce waste and encourage sustainable use of natural resources to boost production as well as consumption. So, portal to link petchem companies with R&D centers. So, a portal was launched which would give access to companies to innovation of the research institute. And this would improve the policy decisions by collecting and analyzing the industry data. And it would also help the department to allocate the resources better and provide support to the sector as well.
सो ओवर 1000 इंडस्ट्रीज एंड 40 इंस्टीट्यूशंस, उनको इंटीग्रेट किया जाएगा इस पोर्टल पे। केम इंडिया, ये नया डेटा शेयरिंग टूल है जिसको इंट्रोड्यूस किया गया है ताकि डिसीजन मेकिंग को इम्प्रूव किया जा सके। सेंटर्स ऑफ एक्सीलेंस को लेके आया जाएगा टू एड्रेस द गैप इन द रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट एंड दी सस्टेनेबल पॉलिसीज। तो इनोवेटिव एनवायरनमेंट बेसिकली हम प्रमोट करें दी पेट्रोकेमिकल इंडस्ट्री। नेक्स्ट, Indian forex reserves, they saw the steepest decline, dropping to $657 billion। तो ग्लोबल इकोनॉमिक चेंजेस भी जो हो रहे हैं उसका भी इम्पैक्ट आ रहा है। ग्लोबल अनसर्टेनिटी जैसे कि यूएस में भी ट्रेजरी यील्ड्स में इंक्रीज हमने देखा है। तो फॉरेक्स रिजर्व जो होते हैं वो बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट रोल प्ले करते हैं इन इम्पोर्ट फाइनेंसिंग, इन डेट सर्विसिंग। सो इकोनॉमिक रिस्क भी रहता है। तो फॉलिंग फॉरेक्स रिजर्व जो है वो बेसिकली वीकेंड करता है इंडिया की करेंसी स्टेबिलिटी को। नेक्स्ट, वर्ल्ड बैंक्स एक्शन प्लान टू फिल द स्किल गैप जिसमें हम फोकस कर रहे हैं ऑन द डिजिटल एजुकेशन, वोकेशनल ट्रेनिंग, वर्कफोर्स अडेप्टेबिलिटी। तो ये जो प्लान है वो प्रायोरिटाइज कर रहा है बाय ऑफ अलाइनिंग द एजुकेशनल सिस्टम विद द मार्केट डिमांड्स। स्पेसिफिकली ऐसे सेक्टर जैसे कि रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी, आईटी सेक्टर। तो डेवलपिंग नेशन जैसे कि इंडिया, उनके लिए इंपॉर्टेंट हो जाता है कि फ्यूचर रेडी वर्कफोर्स हो। तो उसके लिए जो डिमांड ऑफ द मार्केट है और जो स्किल्स हम इम्पार्ट कर रहे हैं उनका अलाइन होना बहुत जरूरी है, जैसे कि स्किल इंडिया मिशन के थ्रू हम कर रहे हैं, डिजिटल इंडिया मिशन के थ्रू कर रहे हैं। Next,
Yes, we have taken up.
गुयाना ऑयल एंड गैस रिजर्व्स में रिच है, तो एनर्जी ट्रेड पार्टनरशिप हम बढ़ा सकते हैं। कोलैबोरेशन हो सकता है जो कि इंडिया के गोल के साथ भी अलाइन करता है टू रिड्यूस द डिपेंडेंस ऑन ऑयल एक्सपोर्टिंग नेशंस। तो ग्लोबल साउथ की भी जो टाइज हैं वो स्ट्रेंथन कहीं ना कहीं हो रहे हैं। तो लॉन्ग टर्म एनर्जी सिक्योरिटी में भी क्रूशियल हो सकता है, डाइवर्सिफाई के लिए ऑप्शन इंडिया को मिलेगा। नेक्स्ट, सेकी, दैट इज सोलर एनर्जी कॉर्पोरेशन ऑफ इंडिया, वो चैलेंजेस फेस कर रहे हैं इन फाइंडिंग बायर्स फॉर द रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी टेंडर, क्योंकि टैरिफ हाई है एंड मार्केट के अंदर कंपटीशन देखा गया है। तो पावर डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन कंपनीज हेजिटेंट है कि लॉन्ग टर्म एग्रीमेंट वो साइन नहीं करें क्योंकि चीपर ऑल्टरनेटिव अवेलेबल है। तो कहीं ना कहीं जो रिन्यूएबल एनर्जी की तरफ इंडिया पुश कर रहा है उसमें ये हर्डल्स हैं कुछ ना कुछ, जिसे मार्केट की डिमांड के साथ अलाइन करना बहुत जरूरी है प्रोडक्शन कैपेसिटी को। नेक्स्ट, डीजीसीआई accelerates reporting timeline for adverse effects, stricter timeline mandate होना चाहिए फॉर रिपोर्टिंग एडवर्स ड्रग रिएक्शन 15 डेज के विंडो के अंदर, ताकि ड्रग सेफ्टी को इम्प्रूव किया जा सके एंड टाइमली इंटरवेंशन हो पाए। तो फार्मास्यूटिकल कंपनीज का की तरफ से सर्विलेंस जो है वो और बेटर होना चाहिए एंड कंप्लायंस होना चाहिए, ताकि पेनल्टीज को अवॉइड कर पाए। तो ग्लोबल स्टैंडर्ड्स ड्रग रेगुलेशन में उसके लिए जरूरी हो जाता है। 30% राइज देखा गया है इन द ड्रग रिएक्शंस, इसलिए जरूरी है। सो डॉक्यूमेंटेशन, रेगुलेटरी मैकेनिज्म, वो सारी चीजें जरूरी हो जाती है फार्मास्यूटिकल इंडस्ट्री के अंदर।